If you missed the news, DarkPaw Games is hiring for a creative director for an existing IP, and since EverQuest is really the only IP that DarkPaw runs, it's obvious that EverQuest 3 is actually going to get made, and in Unreal Engine 5 it looks like. Now, will it be called EverQuest 3 or EverQuest Forever, EverQuest Infinite RIsing, or some such is yet to be known. But they have set some great pillars for an MMO in the job listing. There are some glaring issues we will need to address for a new EverQuest MMO, and we'll be talking about the key features that need to be in an EverQuest 3, so hold on to your Jboots, folks. We're going to dive in deep, let's go. EverQuest is a staple in the MMO genre, with it being the original big dog, making MMOs popular and setting the standard that all MMOs still actually follow to this day. Although most MMOs don't follow it close enough and feel like watered down worlds with only traces of the glory that EverQuest once radiated upon the industry. Just the name EverQuest, in the name, just about promises hundreds of thousands of copies to be sold, and even with the absolute madness that is their last EverQuest project, EverQuest 3 still stands to turn heads across every aisle in the MMO market. The job listing for EverQuest 3 proves that the game is just now being put together from a very beginning stage of development, meaning it will be at minimum 4 years or more before we get to any stage of it being playable, in my opinion, and there are landmines everywhere that the EverQuest fans, new and old, will be mindful of, and a lot of them they will not tolerate at all. Let's talk about what EverQuest 3 needs to be before we get into the things it doesn't need to be. A new EverQuest or an EverQuest 3 needs to stand up for what MMORPGs are supposed to be. An escape from reality into a fantasy world where we can feel like the world is worth our time and a place that is full of adventure. This comes down to world building, and although a huge chunk of this work can lean on nostalgia, it is no doubt obvious that this can't be the only factor driving us to want to log into an EverQuest 3. We need meaningful exploration in a vibrant world that feels alive and organic. Make the world interactable in certain ways to make us want to click around and explore and find all the nuances. Also, the advances in AI for conversation with NPCs could be a big advantage, and the listing for procedural generated content in the job listing, I'm hoping, is at least hinting at this. And there is nothing wrong with using AI programs to help get blueprints for areas, dungeons, and the world, but we'll still need a major human touch to feel like a legit place worth exploring. NORAP can't be completely automated, and EverQuest 3 will have to create a NORAP that is rich in lore, content, and at the very least, a feeling of old school MMO design philosophy. EverQuest 3 will need to be tab target, and the mention of needing someone to have experience with PC and consoles is both exciting and worrisome. I would love for the new EverQuest to be on consoles on one hand, but I worry that this will lead to it becoming an Elder Scrolls Online combat system. Even though Final Fantasy XIV has a real MMO system on consoles and outperforms Elder Scrolls Online by a lot, it seems that developers and publishers and investors in the MMO genre are obsessed with making action combat MMOs, even though the two most popular MMOs on the market are both tab target based. An action based EverQuest MMO would not meet the current fans' desires and would likely not be adequate enough or good enough to pull in new players either. EverQuest 3 will need a major return to faction mattering, giving us built-in decisions in the world to increase or decrease factions with a dizzying amount of factions within the world. This changes the way people play and feels believable, increasing the value of the world. All living creatures should be technically things you can slay, but killing some of them increases or decreases faction. This is an element that absolutely has to be in EverQuest 3, along with access to certain areas in cities and places, dealing with this. And this brings me to races in EverQuest 3. The EverQuest IP has baked in races that I think are fine. Great, actually. Give us access, though, to the Ratanga, Ixar, and the Froglock right away. One amazing thing about EverQuest is the variety of races and that they matter. Picking your race is a meaningful decision due to their stats, and EverQuest 3 needs racial passives and active racial abilities. This just adds a spin to the races, making them impactful, and creates a sense of uniqueness to classes as well, depending on what race the person playing picked. Classes in EverQuest 3 need to stick to the EverQuest basics. I think they should take a long, hard look at the classes and balance of the classes in the original EverQuest and try to emulate that in a newer MMO. Make sure we have tanks, healers, DPS, and crowd control, and the entire design of the world and mobs and encounters, the dungeons and the raids need to remember these 4 roles and make the content in a way similar to the original EverQuest in regard to the danger and the sweet relief of a good crowd control class saving the day when things go crazy. The class design needs to follow a model that each class is great at some things at a cost of not being so great at other things. This design leads to filling in the gaps of your class with another class in your group and encourages group play. And that leads me to the importance of making EverQuest 3 to be a massive multiplayer environment that encourages people to play and work together. There's nothing wrong with, and in fact there should be options for people to solo, but soloing should always be the slower, longer path, whereas grouping gets you to the cooler places, the better loot, the better experience points gained per hour. Group sizes, by the way, need to be 6, not 4, not 5, 6, because 6-player groups opens up slots for crowd control, support, more variety. There is nothing wrong with making some of your content geared for mid-sized groups so that people don't feel the absolute need for 6 full-party groups or bust. And I think both Vanguard Saga of Heroes and Embers Adrift have opened an obvious path for players to be able to quickly understand mobs and how many players they need, aka the chevron system or the bubs that show the amount of players needed on mobs is an excellent solution in my opinion. I want EverQuest 3 to play on nostalgia, but not just for nostalgia's sake, but simply because some of these old dungeons and haunts are just really good game design. Places like Guk, Unrest, open areas like Corona, cities like Kinos and Freeport. These are staples and they should be remade. To be fair, they could literally remake these zones exactly how they were in the original EverQuest and that will work. With the advances in the Unreal Engine 5 tech, it would be outright jaw-dropping. If the design team struggles to make good areas, I imagine that recreating places that have been beloved for the past 24 years is a pretty good path to take. The dungeon design in EverQuest is some of the best examples in all of RPG history, and there is no shame in recreating them and adding a few new areas and secrets and surprises to keep it fresh. And now it's time to talk about all the things that EverQuest 3 cannot be. The things they need to avoid like the plague. And I want to start with politics. Leave it out of the game. This is an escape, as your job posting so bluntly says, and the politics have no place in a world designed to escape from the unrelenting push from both sides in the political landscape. EverQuest 3 cannot be designed to be a money printer. Let the money come from good game design, from new content, from keeping us in your world and paying you monthly for the privilege to be in your world. Task your developers with creating fun and engaging content and let that drive sales. Do not create issues in your core game loop that requires a cash shop to fix. This isn't engaging and nobody is tricked by it. We can see what you did and it doesn't feel good and it pushes away your community. I know that with DarkPaw there is no escape from a cash shop. That's just the way it is. They don't know any other way. That's the way it is. But can we at least try to get with the program and lead the industry again? Lead the industry again like you used to. Make it fair and balanced to make us feel like you are on the side of the gamer for once. Final Fantasy XIV is actually a good example of Square making boatloads of cash. Freaking loads of cash from trying to please their fan base. And I want you to understand that I do not want EverQuest 3 to be a Final Fantasy XIV copy-paste, but it is a great example of core philosophy and cash shop design and making an MMO that just doesn't suck from the inside out. EverQuest 3 doesn't need to be the sheep of MMOs, following the big dogs. It needs to be the example to other developers and publishers of how to do things. The EverQuest IP deserves better than to be a copy-paste of anyone else's formula. Remember, EverQuest made the original formula that all these other MMOs are still actually copying to this day, whether they know it or not. Why would EverQuest 3 be following someone else who is following EverQuest? It makes no sense. It is an Ouroboros of horse crap. Let EverQuest show us once again what MMOs are supposed to be, and be the trend setter, not the trend getter. I could go on for longer, but I want to leave a little room for you to leave a comment about what you want in EverQuest 3 and what you don't want in EverQuest 3. So leave me a comment so we can discuss. Everything I said in this video comes from a place of love. I love Norath, I love EverQuest, and I hope you enjoyed the video. For more MMO and RPG content, please like and subscribe. And with EverQuest 3 on the way for sure now, I only hope that in the coming years, we see a product being made that makes the original team, such as Brad McQuaid, smile down from heaven. And until next time, my friends, God bless and happy gaming. I want to give a very special thank you to the members of Napalm for your contributions month over month in keeping me full time. You help me pay the bills so I can keep streaming and pumping out content, and I truly appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And I think you might be interested in becoming a member of the channel. Please click the join button down below the video for more information and join our family. And I want to give an extremely big shout out to the Lords of Napalm: Bounty Code, Jared Woodhouse, Daimlos, Farthest Reach, Sparrow, Christopher Hensel, Random Rob, Zelik Lived, Rodney Mom, Vander, Gallery Moonsong, What's the Takeaway, Trips, Bad Wolf Gaming, Richard Glass, Chrono Guru, Cobalt, and the Cyber Nomad Witcher. Thank you for your highest tier membership.